I again had the opportunity to go to New Mexico this summer and enjoy a nice vacation up in the mountains and do some hiking there. Always a beautiful place to go. On the drive back, I listened to a book, City of Thieves, by David Benioff. I'm not sure exactly how to say his last name. But the story is set in World War II and the siege of Leningrad by Nazi Germany, the Soviet city of Leningrad, which today is really St. Petersburg. And throughout the book, they always refer to it as Petersburg or Pete, or Peter, I guess. So it's that story. This city is under terrible occupation and being bombed, and none of the supplies can get through. There's no food, there's no water, and it's a horrible situation. This is literally very true. And the story centers around these two young men, really a teenager and a young soldier, who caught at some misdeed are forced by a Soviet commander to find them 12 eggs in this city for his daughter's wedding, her wedding cake. And it's kind of an extreme situation in the city that hardly is there enough for anybody to eat. Just even a piece of bread would be something of a luxury for them. Well, it centers around that and all of the horrific experiences that these two young men have in their life. Well, the two characters are Lev and Kolya, and Lev is kind of the central character. The story is really around him, and he's a kind of a very restrained, remorse, intelligent young guy, but is very suspicious of everyone. The opposite to him is Kolya. Kolya is a very outgoing, chatty personality, full of stories, and so he's a very attractive person. But one thing this Kolya does again and again is that he is, in the face of danger and any difficult situation, he never shows any fear. In fact, his instinct is to go right into the midst of that danger, constantly challenged. When people challenge him, he immediately, in a sense, calls their bluff and takes up the challenge that they are putting down. There's a scene where a Nazi commandant has them in his power, and he's threatened to kill him because he's just talking too much. And he says, if you say one more word, I will put a bullet in you. And he stops for just a second, and then he immediately talks. He immediately says, yes, you can do that, you can kill me, and goes on with whatever his challenge was. He always wins in these challenges. He's always able to stand up and calls their bluff. Well, I thought that was a great example of somebody who, in the face of danger, doesn't run away, which I think is maybe not everybody's instinct. I know there is the fight or flight instinct that we have, and I guess every person does have that. But typically, our instinct is to run away, is to take flight, if at all possible, in those situations, and not to immediately go on the attack. There are certain people like this. And I'm sure in the history of humanity maybe it was evenly paced like that, but I suppose those people didn't pass on their genes if they had too much of that fight in them. They just didn't last very long. So those of us that had the flight instinct maybe were a little more prudent. But St. Peter doesn't have this kind of instinct, does he? St. Peter seems to be the one who also goes into a fight, as he does so in the gospel today. Here he is in a very dangerous situation. The waves are crashing about them, the darkness covers the people, and it seems like a kind of a scary situation. Maybe something that the disciples had faced before. They were fishermen, and they did know how to go through stormy waters. Yet it was still, I'm sure, every time a kind of a scary situation. And then this figure, this ghostly figure, appears to them. And they're terrified, it says in the gospel. And again, what is our instinct in that situation? Well, it's to run away. It's to do whatever we can to escape it. But not Peter. Peter says, if it's really you, command me to come out into the water. Well, what kind of crazy idea is that? Why would you get out of the safety of your boat and start walking on the water? That doesn't seem like a very prudent thing to do. None of the other disciples tried to do that. They all stayed in the safety of the boat. But Jesus says to them, come, and we know how the rest of the story is. Why did he do that? Why did Peter step out of the boat? Where is our safety? What is the safe place for us to go to? How do we know what is the safe thing for us to do? I remember an army officer, and I can't remember the context in which we were speaking about this, but he said to me once that contrary to what our instinct is that the safest place in the midst of a battle is to not go the opposite direction, but to go directly into it. That the safe place was not to run away, but to go towards the fighting. And he said, because if you turn and go the other way, all you can be is a target at that moment. It's the people that go into the battle that really not only do they have courage, but are paradoxically finding the safest place. And it seems to me that this is what the story is telling us. That in the midst of the storm, in the midst of something that seems very dangerous, that the safe place to go is not to run away, but to go in it. And it is there that Jesus is present. Jesus is present in the midst of the storm, and he invites us to do something that seems impossible, that we are to walk on the water, that we are to get out of our safe place and go to the place that we cannot anticipate to be the good thing to do. Don't know exactly how to make examples of this. Everybody faces difficulties. Everybody faces certain kinds of crises in their life. And I think in general, we should be prudent about it. We shouldn't just immediately charge into danger. We should consider what the impact is on us and on other people that are around us. And so in many crises, the right thing to do is not simply just to go on the attack, that we, as I say, need to be prudent. But at times I believe that the Lord does ask us to leave our comfort zone if we are going to follow him. That it's clear that at times Jesus is saying, follow me, come out on the water, do the thing that doesn't seem like the easy or the safe thing for us to do. Instead, we have to follow him. Perhaps there are many crises that call for a choice to follow Jesus. That could be in our personal life, in our marriage, with our children, some other kind of family situation that seems to be kind of chaotic and out of control. In this case, following Jesus on the water means being faithful to him, doing what the Lord asks us to do. But it could be for us as a parish. Oftentimes we're caught in a situation we don't know exactly what is the right thing to do. We try to make prudent choices. What is the best thing for us to do in every situation? And of course that's the right answer. But sometimes Jesus says you have to come away from that comfort zone, from the place that is safe, if you want to follow me more closely. These are the times where our flight instinct may not really serve us the best. Peter walked on the water for a time, didn't he? He did something that was impossible for him to do, and yet at the Lord's command, he was able to do so. The other disciples only watched from the safety of their boat. They never got to walk on water as Peter did. But I think what Peter came to see was that the storm, in some way, was an illusion, that it had the appearance of danger. It was a threat, but didn't actually hold the danger that they had assumed. So if he kept his eyes on Jesus, if he followed Jesus closely, he was safe. But as soon as he took his eyes off of him, when he started focusing on the high winds and the waves that were crashing about him, on the darkness that didn't give him good light, he started to sink and was then in peril. As long as we are looking at the danger, as long as our focus is always on the things that could be harmful to us, we will react in a fearful way. Keeping our eyes on Jesus is really the safe place for us to go.